Welcome to another episode of Seeking the Light of a Thousand Suns. Today I have with me Lily McNamara with Lily of the Light. You may know them from the Samhain Symposium events, their psychic galleries, Tarot Tuesdays on YouTube, or Lily's spiritual advisor services. Join us today as we unravel the mysteries of animal communication, discussing the various methods and signals used by different species to convey messages, express emotions, and navigate their environments. Whether you're a seasoned wildlife enthusiast or simply curious about the hidden language of animal communication, join us on this journey as we unlock the secrets of animal communication. Welcome, Lily.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This is one of my favorite topics to discuss because animals are not like people at all. You know, it's people were wonderfully antiquated. We are the broke down Chevy in the front yard. Well, animals are like this pristine moving vehicle. And one of the coolest things to learn about working with animals is that they process energy instantaneously. So they can actually like heal so much faster than us on an energetic level. And if you just give them that extra oomph, they do so much better. But with that comes this huge caveat that a lot of people and animal owners don't realize. Animals absorb our energy instantaneously also. So your animal, we've all hugged a dog. We've all pet a cat. We've all looked at the fish tank and had a really crappy day. That animal is absorbing that energy from us naturally, instinctively. And so they have to process that energy out. And sometimes it's too much. And then they need a healing themselves. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. They're like, oh, my dog makes me feel so much better. And I'm like, please pamper them once a season so that they can get rid of all the energy that is being dumped on them throughout the days and weeks and hard times throughout your life that they're there for you.
Would you say that there's a way to protect them better from that?
Not really. Like, it's their natural state is to be healers. Animals are natural healers. Animals naturally process energy that way. And so to take away like their natural ability would be very difficult. But even if it's a natural ability, they still need help with it if it gets to be too overwhelming. Like if you were really good at running, but then you ran too much and got injured, you would still need like a doctor and to take a break. It's kind of like that.
You know, what you're saying makes so much sense. I did make a cat collar for one of my cats once because she loved so much to be around energy raising things, but it also made her run up the wall sideways and stuff like that. So she always wanted to be present, but it was always too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I just did like snowflake obsidian and some grounding. I think it might have been hematite, I'm not sure, but grounding stones on her collar.
Absolutely. The family pet that I had growing up, he had a customized healing stone collar and it was absolutely beautiful and it helped him a lot. And that's what got me into making charms for pets. I don't make them on the collar. I make them and most people will put them like over their bed or their food bowl, like on the wall. And so it's always by them and they're completely customized based on, these are some of the things that some of the animal charms I've made for clients' pets. their birth date, their gotcha date, so their adoption date, any kind of illness, ailment, or trauma that they're working with, especially for rescues. There was one dog, her name is Charlotte, and she was a rescue and she never barked ever her entire life. And they were warned of that when the adoption went through. And the parents said, just do whatever you can to help. And I said, anything? I can do anything and you're not going to be upset. And I said, nope, not going to be upset. So she got a really intense charm made that had to do with justice for what she had been through. And then we did 2 full sessions of energy healing. And then I get a text a week later. She barks louder than any animal I've ever heard. And I was like, oh, so she doesn't
Yay.
bark a lot, but it is one like deafening boom. And so it was like she found her voice. She was never safe to express herself. She found her voice. And as much as it is disruptive to have a giant boom happen in the middle of your house randomly, they're like, we wouldn't have it any other way. It is the sign that she is safe with us and that she is healing. Wake the neighbors, baby. Wake the neighbors.
That just makes me think of how many times I see people hush their dogs in inappropriate ways, which then makes them afraid to alert, express, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
And to have a voice. And with animal healing, like there are so many different examples. I love giving examples because it makes it so real based on like, oh, this is the concept of working with animals and animal communication. There was a dog who had food aggression once, like bad food aggression. And I went into the house and literally moved his bowl 3 feet, his food bowl, because he had so much aggression there. I was like, no, he just wants it over there. They're like, but that's not convenient for us. And I'm like, he's biting the other dog that lives there every time dinner happens. So let's just move the bowl. Moved the bowl. They messaged me a few days later and was like, he's never been aggressive again. His entire life, he was not aggressive. He just needed his bowl moved 3 feet. And that's what animal communication is. It's talking to the animal about what their needs are and then explaining to the pet parent, this is what's going to happen. So when I have animal sessions, I always sit down the parents very, very gently and say, to be clear, I'm here for your pet. Your feelings don't matter to me today. No, no, no. Your pet is my only priority. If that benefits you, great. But I truly don't care if it hinders your entire life because you hired me to take care of your pet. You hired me to ensure that your pet is healing and feeling safe. And I will ensure that that happens, period. And there's only been one pet parent who did not go along with that. And I was like, oh, you can't be my client. When I explained like what the pet needed and everything, they're like, that hinders my life too much. I'm like, that's fine. Bye. I can't, I can't work with people who don't love their pets. You gotta love your pets to work with me.
So, how does one go about? Do you have any tips on how one would go about figuring out what their needs are? Or is that a little bit more of a fine-tuned quality um, that wouldn't start with somebody that's a beginner?
It's a little bit of both. Like I have met people such as yourself when you work on the cats and stuff that it's so natural that it's just your intuition that's like, yes, this is the way it feels. This is the way the energy on the animal feels and it helps and it assists. I've met a few naturals with animal work and they are fabulous and way more powerful than they will ever admit to themselves or anybody else. Um so if you're a natural, it just naturally comes and you're naturally drawn to it and you can just be like, "Oh yes, I know this animal's hips hurt. Let me work on them." Um but if you're not a natural at it and you're like, "Oh, I just think this is really amazing and I would really like to be able to do something," I can't make you have that psychic gift, but you can take training to learn animal Reiki, which is different than human Reiki. Like the way that I do energy healing on pets is not the same as on a person. partly because their energy centers are in different spots. The other part is that their energy moves so much faster than people. The other part is that I can communicate to you verbally what is going on and why you may feel nauseous. A dog is not going to understand. A fish, a snake is not going, they'll be like, oh, that doesn't feel good. And then they will recoil away. And it's like, oh, you just have to, with a human, I'll be like, take a few deep breaths. We'll get through it. With animals, you have to psychically tell them that, which is an entirely different skill set than doing an animal healing. So if you want to do this and you feel drawn to it, get the training. I'm currently training someone right now, a mentee who wants to be do animal healings while grooming the pets.
Mm.
Like,
Oh, that's amazing.
and so it's a whole pamper session, healing stones, animal reiki, animal communication, and animal grooming all in one mobile shop.
That's
And it's,
amazing.
oh, I can't wait. And it's so great. And so she'll learn gradually and then she'll do hands-on learning with my clients who are okay with having students tested on their pets. Partially because for those of you who do not know me and have never seen me train somebody, I am, God, what's a nice way to say ruthless? Yeah, that's it. It's, I think this is fabulous and wonderful. I love all the different healing modalities. I love what I do. I think it is amazing. It brings joy to my life. I also take it incredibly seriously. If you want to dick around, if you want to violate consent, if you want to treat this as a joke and entertainment, like at a cocktail party, I am not the person for you. With my mentees, I put them through rigorous training to make sure that they can touch someone's soul, animal or human, ethically, effectively, and without harm every time, no matter what. They have to be able to do it perfectly. And a lot of people are like, God, that's so intense. I'm like, wouldn't you want that in your practitioner, though? Wouldn't
Right?
you want someone who was like, oh, no, no, my training involves someone standing over me and just going, you're wrong, do it right, you're wrong. And it sounds really mean, but it's not, because by the time I'm giving them tough love, we've already done all the nurturing and caring to build up their gifts. And now we need to, like you said, yeah, they have to be fine tuned. And saying, oh, you're doing your best and that's okay that the animal is recoiling in pain. No, it's not. Stop what you're doing, realign your own energy, try again. And if you can't do it again, I will show you again how to do it correctly. And so that's, I'm just very, I am fun loving, but I'm also very serious about working with people because I believe you should be. I believe you should respect the soul no matter what vessel it's in. And I demand that my clients, my colleagues, and my mentees do the exact same thing. If you don't, you're not going to be in my sphere ever.
Well, and wouldn't you say, I don't know if you would agree with me or not, but my guess is I always, I'm very gentle and do the right things, working with energy and such. But my guess is that if you are not practiced, ethical, um, and only doing the scope within your limits, um, you're kind of causing like an energetic harm or trauma,
Yeah.
right? Because if something's not comfortable, or like you said, flat out against your consent,
Hmm.
um, there's going to be avoidance, there's going to be non-trust, there's going to be these other things that come from that.
Yep. And the pet has to consent. And to give you an idea, not all pets are energy healing candidates. There is a wonderful dog that I do animal communication with that I am there. The parents have blatantly said no. They're like, this is a hard boundary. Do not touch our animal if you have if you're doing energy work. And it's because he has a brain deformity. And the last two times that I had done energy work on him, he had a seizure. He got so overwhelmed
Oh,
that he had a seizure. That is very rare and very valid. Don't So it's not, don't think like, oh, this is a blanket. Yes, every animal can do well with this. Almost all of them can. But what do if an animal has a seizure in your lap? You better be willing to take care of that too. Um, and it's for any animal. I have done birds and snakes and fish, cats, dogs. I had a couple Great Danes that were a very big surprise. So I got a message from a family and they said, "Okay, how are you with big dogs?" And I was used to like 100-pound dogs, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can handle a big old boxer. I'm good." And they're like, "Okay, we have Great Danes," and it did not click in my head that like the Great Dane was the small horse of the dog community. So I walk into this house and this dog, I am 5'2", comes up to my boobs. The head is, and I just went, "Oh, big damn dog, big damn dog." And they're like, "Yeah, is this a problem?" And I'm like, "No." I had to like, most animals, you can like lean forward and your wingspan can touch most of the dog. I had to scooch on the floor the whole time. I'm like, and head, shoulders, knees, butt. Like it was moving down the animal's body, very scooching on the floor style because they were just so big. But animal, I like that animal communication and animal healing can go hand in hand, but you can do them one at a time. So you can just do animal communication, be like, "What's up, dog?" And it's fabulous. I like doing animal communication and healing at the same time so that I can communicate with the animal. And there are questions of when. When do you get this stuff done, right? Because obviously, if you ever just want to pamper your pet, go right ahead. Absolutely. If your animal is starting to show, like, for lack of a better word, signs of being daunted, chances are they need to cycle through energy with the help of someone like me, someone who can help your animal cycle through their energy. And then there's also when big changes happen. If there is a death in the family, if you move, if someone has been sick and is now better, if there is a divorce, anything like that, your animal's energy needs to be reset. I have a client who moved and they moved like across the country with their two dogs, and it was prepping the animals by explaining to them what was going to happen. That was my job. They hired me to psychically take care of their pets through the move. So there was the pre-gaming that was like, "Okay, you guys are moving. The house that you have always known is never going to be seen again. And then you're going to take 3 days to drive across the country to now live in a new home." And so they were warned. We calmed their energy. We made sure they were aligned with their needs to be very vocal on the trip so that their needs were met, which will be very annoying for the parents, but the needs are being met, so it makes sense. Once they got there, they were very confused. Neither was happy. And so then you resonate and sync the energy of the house and the land to your pet so that they can acclimate faster. And then you explain to them, "Okay, this is what the new house looks like. What do you think? Walk around. Where do you want your bed to be?" Your pets get to choose where their beds are going to be. I am such an adamant believer in that. And so one of them has acclimated great now. It's been about a month that they've lived there. The other one is not handling change well. The other one is very stuck in his ways, and he's just like, "This is a whole lot of no. And I would like you to be aware of how much no I feel." And so we're giving him another moon cycle before we do like some intense work and be like, "I am so sorry, sweetie. This is not changing. This is where we're at now." Um, but those are things that you can do with your pets. So big moves, big changes, make sure that your pets are getting a session with somebody. And then end of life. This is a huge one that I really wish more people did. If you know that your animal is really sick and may possibly be walking towards the rainbow bridge, get a session. I do this when I'm hired to do this. I will either go to the house or do it remotely. And we talk to the animal, and it's the animal's chance to tell you everything it wants to tell you before they pass, to ask questions, to get comfort, the comfort that they need. And I had one dog who was really upset because he felt like he had failed the parents. because he was a guard dog. So he was leaving them unprotected. And so he was making his suffering last so much longer because he didn't want to die and leave them unprotected. And so I explained this to the pet parents, and the mom was like bawling. And I just looked at the dad, who is 6'5" and built like a brick house. And I said, "You're up, buddy. You better promise that dog that nothing's going to happen in this house." And he looked at the dog and he's like, "I have this. I am the man of the house. I have this. We are armed. We have guns. I am the size of a freaking football player. I will protect this house. I will protect this family. Thank you for doing it, but please let me take over. You have done everything." And then the pet died within the next 3 days, knowing that the house was taken care of, but wouldn't have done it without that conversation. But how are the parents supposed to know that the dog's just sitting there going, "No, not going, not going anywhere until I know and I'm promised by who needs to promise me." Another one is when a pet was passing. They were very sick, and I was told it was over Thanksgiving. This was like an emergency session. I went over Thanksgiving, and I looked at the family and I said, "Can I move and touch anything I want?" And they said, "Whatever needs to happen, do it. I don't care." I went into their bedroom and moved all of their furniture except their bed. Everything was moved for the dog's comfort. They wanted to get up on a different side of the bed. They wanted their large dog bed to be on another side of the bed. The whole room was redesigned in one afternoon. And they walked in and they're like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Your dog is going to be the most comfortable now as they are passing. I'm good with this." And they never moved the room back after, in honor of that pet. They're like, this is the way the room is meant to be. This room was meant to be for him. We are good with that." And it was their bedroom. So there are all these amazing stories about working with pets that are just so impactful, that people always think, "Oh, it's just good doggy, nice kitty." It's so much more than that. It really is. And I've worked with snakes and healing stones, and they will coil around different healing stones depending upon what they're feeling. So it's not just cats and dogs. It's all animals that can benefit from energy healing. And that's just the domesticated ones. Like the pets, there are also other stories to tell about non-domesticated that go on. So before we go on to non-domesticated, do you have any other questions or comments about pet life with animal healing and communication?
I'm just really, really glad that you touched on those big life changes and stuff. I learned the hard way with communication, um, by behaviors after the fact for not doing some of those things.
Mhm.
I had a dog that was bonded with another dog, and that other dog was with us for a short period of time just to help someone else move, and they became bonded. They became best friends, and we sent the other one back home. Well, my dog went into this severe depression. It wouldn't play, wasn't eating, was just
Oh.
laying around. She was moping. She was grieving the loss of her friend because she didn't
Mhm.
understand. And if we had had the ability to say, "This is temporary, enjoy this time that you have," she's going to have to go back home to her parents. It might have been different. Um,
Yeah.
I've also had a cat that tried to hang on and hang on and hang on, hang on. It would have been really nice to know,
Mhm.
you know, what they would needed to know to be okay with going.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
every animal is different. Like, please, no one who's listening think, "Oh, you're a good boy, you're a good kitty," is what needs to be said. Furniture needed to be moved for one. Protection and guaranteed a firearm in the house was needed for another. There was one who needed to run the perimeter of the house one last time, not outside, the perimeter, which is further than their tether went. And so they had to be taken off tether to run the entire perimeter of the house. And then the next day they died in peace. But if they would have kept the dog on the tether the whole time, so it's different for every pet, you know? And that's why you have someone like me come in, because we will talk to your animal and figure out what's going on. Here's something that I want to touch on before we go to non-domesticated. If it's your fault, just own it. There are so many pet parents who say, but I did everything I could. And I'm like, that's great. I love the fact that you're into this. But if you made a mistake, just say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I made the mistake, and then correct it.
So important.
There are too many pet parents who are like, no, I was doing the right thing. I'm like, you think you're doing the right thing, but your pet is literally saying their food bowl needs to move. So you can say, I put it in the wrong spot. Well, how was I supposed to know it was the wrong spot? Sweetheart, do not get sassy with me. I am not here for you. I'm here for the dog. Move out of my way. I'm touching that food bowl now. It's when pet parents get defensive, they are not there for their pet. They are there for their ego. And that is for me an immediate red flag. You can have your feels, you can be frustrated, you can cry, you can be angry because this has just been so frustrating. Absolutely. But don't ever not take accountability when you have a pet. It is your responsibility. And I'm not mad at you unless you did something to hurt your pet. I'm not mad at you, but be like, oh, my bad. Okay, yeah, let's fix it. Instead of like, I did nothing wrong. It's like,
It
don't
would.
talk to me then.
Yeah, it would be just like any other family or any other person or friend if you accidentally wronged them, even not knowing, which happens to us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is acknowledge and own it, right? Just
Yeah.
like you said, there's, yes, you did what you thought was right in the time.
Mhm.
There's nothing
And
wrong with that.
then change your behavior. Be like, oops, my bad. I own it. Now I'm going to change my behavior and never do that again because I know that you don't want that there. Absolutely. So that's a big one. Again, I love working with my clients. They're some of the best people in the country. And if ever I don't meet many bad apples, but when I do, it's a one and done. It's, you know, you don't need my services. Nope, I will not work with you. Um, but going to non-domesticated pets, there are two different kinds. So there's zoos and animals like held in captivity, but not domesticated, right? And the story I love telling people because they think it's just wild is when I have tiny humans with me, little kids, we will go to the zoo. And the first time this happened, like I knew what was happening, but the kids freaked out. And now they demand to go to the zoo every time they're in Minnesota. And it's because I will push my aura out and send out healing energy to animals who consent to it so that they will come towards us. And we have had foxes, wolves. I can't get the moose, not gonna lie. That's something that bothers me. I could never get the moose. I've never gotten the moose at the Minnesota Zoo. I've never gotten him. But yeah, wolves, we got a tiger. They will come up to the glass and lay down in front of me, and then I'll put the kids in front of me so that they can just look at and engage with the animal as we're doing it. And then when the animal is done interacting with my energy, they'll get up and walk away. And it was one time, it was really funny. Another family figured out what was happening, that whenever I walked up, the animals changed and became more interactive. So that family just like tagged along with us for the whole, they didn't talk to us. They did not, they were Minnesota nice. There was no chit chat. But it was like every time we moved to a new display, they were like, let's go, kids, it's time to move. And we would just go. So they come up right to the glass, they'll talk to you. Um, in case anyone's wondering, the bald eagle at the Minnesota Zoo, very cranky, very cranky. Rightfully so, was injured, and that's why they have to live at a zoo. All of their freedom was taken because they got sick and hurt. And so it's just a fun thing that it's like, oh my gosh, like that's what everyone wants when they're at the zoo, is to have animals come up to them. And I love it because I get to engage with animals and I love doing that. So every time we go, it is all right, who do we want to see? What animals do we want to get close to? Let's all gather around and let Auntie do their work, and then I'll start working on the animals.
So for someone that doesn't know if they have this gift or not, or someone that, wants to work their way toward having that type of connection, what would you say like a starting point or a good practice would be to change the mindset and start giving and receiving that energy communication with animals?
Become my client immediately, of course. So that's the like, oh yeah, you want to like train type thing, but just you get used to it. And the easiest way to get used to it is starting with your own animals. Understanding that your own animals is very different than any other animal. And so you start with your own and then you start working on other animals. And when I say working on, you need to be trained. Get trained in Reiki, get trained in a form of energy healing to be able to actually like do work on animals. Um but just communicate with them and do this version of like share, check, share. Do something, wait and see what the results are. If they're affirming, you know that you're on the right path. Um, and it's amazing to do it. A lot of people who have just affinity towards animals do really well with this kind of work. Um, I I do not condone anyone doing this professionally without training. You must be trained. If you want to, because let me tell you what, you have not met someone as violent as a pet owner who's been wronged. Period. I am proud to say I have never messed with a pet owner before, but they are so hyper protective of the fur, feathers, scales, fins, babies that if you mess it up because you're not trained, they're not going to go, "Oh, it's okay. You're not trained and I'm going to get what'd you do to my baby? You better run. I'm going to start hunting you." Is the reaction of every pet parent. They are not sitting there going, "Oh, you're not trained. Yeah, mess with my pet." They're going, "What are your credentials? How do I know my pet is safe with you?" And you give your credentials and you say, "I trained under this person. This is how often," like you do that. And so that's a big part with people getting started. This isn't to scare anybody away. This really isn't, but it is to take it seriously. Right now in the metaphysical community, not just with animal stuff, people are just jumping in and doing it professionally with no training, maybe reading a book. And I'm like, I don't care how natural your talent is. If someone, because I've met so many people who demand that they have a natural gift. Now, let me be clear. I was born with my abilities. I have been a psychic medium my entire life, and I use my abilities in my everyday life. I did not see clients until I had literally 5 years of training first. Before I saw my first professional client, I had 5 years of training first. And so I meet people who say, "Oh no, I'm just gifted. This is from God." And I'm like, "Okay, that's nice." And they're like, "So I'm going to do something to you because God told me to." And I go, "All right, one, don't touch me. Two, you're going to want to take a step back before I psychically attack you because that will happen if you try to touch me. Three, imagine someone else saying that in a bar setting. God told me I can touch you." That is horrifying. And they're like, "Well, that's out of context." No, it's not. It has to be consensual. And so many people who don't have training don't view consent as a thing because it's their ability. So they should be able to use them. Not the way it goes, folks. If that is who you are not my people. You are not Lily of the Light people. I guarantee you do not want to meet me in person. If you sit there and go, "Your consent doesn't matter. God loves me." I'm like, "Well, Odin thinks I'm the shit. So let's see how this turns out for you." Um, that's just a big part as when you're learning and growing and it's all amazing and you're experimenting, do it in safe, controlled ways and have someone check your work because there are so many people who have a natural talent and then all they have to do is be trained in the fundamentals of how to ground, how to shield, how to center, how to ask for consent, how to understand when you hit energy funny, because someone can consent but then you hit a block that they don't want to touch. And this can happen in pets too. I
Mhm.
had a pet with the hips don't lie. Shakira would have been proud, man. Would not let me mess with their hips. And guess what? That is their right as a soul. When an animal says no, when a human says no, you stop immediately and you back up gently. And so when that animal was like, no, you're not gonna, and I'm like, but your hips hurt and we're gonna fix it. No, I hear you. I acknowledge I am disengaging immediately. And I disengaged and was fine with doing energy work on all the rest of the animal, not the hips. You got to respect that. You do not know best. You are not in control of anyone else's soul. Sorry, that is my side tangent. I get very uppity about the consent talk because it is so prevalent and people not being trained and charging alarming amounts of money. Like, I have been doing this 20 years professionally. I've been seeing clients for 20 years professionally. For those of you who ever see a picture of me or who are watching this video, self-care is the fountain of youth. You have found it. Self-care is what makes you not wrinkle. And I I charge the prices I do after 20 years of experience doing what I'm doing. I did not charge that after the first 5, after the first 10. I didn't charge what I charge now 5 years ago. I only started charging what I charge once I hit 20 years of experience. And so that's just something to keep in mind whenever I ask people, like, what's your active experience with clients? And you'll do that with your pets too, not just people. Like, when someone says, oh, I do animal healing, for how long and where did you train? I read one book once and God loves me, so I'm going to touch your animal. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're going to call Lily of the Light and I'm going to get you a referral to somebody. If it's not me, it's going to be one of the people that I trained. It's going to be one of the people who had me stand over them and go, if you fuck up, I'm dragging you back to the car by your hair, which has been something that has been said, not in a mean way, but it is to let you know what the risks are. You do not hurt an animal, even on accident. You have to be aware of your energy because they can't yell out no. You have to treat animals with so much respect and kindness because they deserve it and they're fabulous, and also because they cannot verbally tell you as easily as a human can. So that is my little spiel. And lastly, we have the wild, the wilderness. Personally, my least favorite. And here's why. It's not a controlled situation, and I'm a scaredy cat. So, like, I've been at nature reserves, like out where they have those paths through the woods, where Little Red Riding Hood went to die. And I will have snakes come up to me in the wild. And let me tell you what, when you are watching, this happened. I was watching a romantic sunset with somebody who took me out to the bluffs to go on a nature walk. Oh, this is so nice. Watching the sunset, it's romantic. We are holding hands, and I am unaware that my energy is like pushing out. My auric field is pushing out, just like I do at the zoo. And a snake slithered between my legs, and I screamed so girly, like it was one of those cartoon high pitched shrill things. And so you can do it in the wild if you want. Butterflies love energy healing. They are one of the ones that will flock to it. Actually, squirrels are a little too skittish for it usually. Snakes will come up to you. Spiders are also ones that really enjoy energy healing in the wild. So those are animals. Now, let me be clear. PSA moment. Just because you are in the wild does not mean you find a bear or
Right.
a raccoon or something and be like, I'm going to touch you. No, you leave them be. I have had more than one experience where I've been with a group of people and they're like, suck in your aura. I'm not dealing with another wolf. And I'll go, sorry. And I'll suck in my aura. And it's like, because there are wild animals sometimes out in nature, and it's not always a wolf. It's usually like a fox. It's something small that they just don't want to deal with. And I'm like, okay, so I have to be aware to suck in my energy.
I wonder if that's why I have wild or stray animals gravitate toward me.
Mm-hmm. Because you're a natural. You naturally admit it. And with naturals, you're not even aware you're doing it. And that's where the training comes in. So that if you are in a situation where you can't be Snow White with the animals just following you around the forest,
La-la-dee, da-da-da, la-la-dee.
And they're helping you clean the house. Where are those animals? I gotta say, I've been doing animal healings since I was in my late teens. I've been doing professional animal healing since I was about 18. I've never once met one who can hold a mop. I feel cheated by Disney. I don't need Prince Charming. Where went the animals that will take care of me and clean and be my emotional support? I've been doing energy healing on animals for years. I have never met one who's like, I will fold your laundry. Not one. Disney, liars, liars. But in the wild, it is cool as long as you are very safe. Like, obviously, I'm a little scaredy cat. I screamed when the snake came, but be aware of what you're doing. And if you're a natural and you want to get more into it because you think it's cool and fascinating, get training. And you can do it, doesn't have to be hardcore training. Like, if someone came to me and they were like, I want to learn more about this, but I don't want to do it like professionally, like, I'll be like, okay, then we're going to low key train you. I'm not going to put you through a rigorous thing. Like, you want to do it on your pet and maybe your sister's cat. Fabulous. But people like the mentee that I have right now, she's like, no, I want to do this on hundreds of animals and help as many as possible. And I want to do Reiki and healing stones and animal communication. And I want to pamper them and make sure that they have the best life possible. And it is fabulous. I always sit there and I'm like, yeah, then you're getting it rigorously trained because you're making this part of a business in which you're charging money, but also you are having a lot of animals that you don't know. Because doing it on the cat that's like your cat is very different than doing it on the random, like, long-haired cat who doesn't like to be brushed. Like, very different techniques to be used for those.
That's right. You know, I would like to say for me, I don't think that I don't think I was always a natural. I think that for me, working with crystals and working with my own personal energy frequencies and such has over, a good chunk of time kind of guided me in that direction.
Yeah, it was part of your natural path. It wasn't because oh, you bring up a great misconception that everything has to be since birth, that you have to be born like, because so many people, like, I was born with my gifts and then I just trained them to be the badass gifts that they are now. That's not the only way to do it. Like, there is baptism by fire, there is cultivating and learning and opening up and awakening new gifts later in life.
Mhm.
I have someone who just started being an intuitive. Like, no, she's like 34, and she's like, oh, I just started opening up my, because she met somebody. She met someone who clicked with her soul, and now they're like, they're two girlfriends, they're best friends and everything like that. But that made her feel safe enough to open up her intuition. And now at 34, she is just starting her spiritual journey. She is
Wow.
just starting her intuition. And she honestly wouldn't have had it happen unless she had met that other woman to click with and feel safe with. And so you bring up a very good point. You don't have to be born with animals clamoring at your pram. If it happened later in life, it is still just as valid, effective, and powerful.
Well, and that brings up another thing too is, our previous podcast was about shadow working. There are a lot of things that you could either knowingly or unknowingly block yourself from
Mhm.
due to past experiences or traumas. And so, like, I know a big step for me on one of mine was family members. Oh, you're woohoo, or you're too imaginative, or the behaviors and the actions of people around me being naysayers kind of have you like brush things off and start like ignoring
Mhm.
what you would have been paying attention to.
Yeah, it's that invalidation, and that not only spiritually but emotionally. When people say, "Ugh, that didn't happen," you're just being sensitive
Mhm.
no, like that's just part of having I love this one. That's just part of having an active imagination. I never had an imaginary friend. I 100% talked to spirits constantly growing up. Not one of them was an imaginary friend. Every single one was someone who lived a life and died. So, yeah, like it's if you don't have that nurturing for a lot of people, if you don't have that nurturing energy around you as you're growing your gifts at a really young age, you got to wait until like you're a teenager and you have friends and you all go through that witchy phase together when you're wearing black lipstick. I did not look good in black lipstick, but I can pull off a purple lip really well. Just throwing that out there for all the listeners. Totally irrelevant, but I am very passionate about that fact. Can't pull off black, can pull off purple. And so it don't beat yourself up because your path looks different than anybody else's. I know when I talk about my origin story, people get like almost uncomfortable because they're like, "Oh, how lucky you had it. Like you started training at 10. Your gifts were always validated." And I was like, "Yes, my gifts were always validated. I was also raised in an abusive house. So like my life was invalidated, my gifts were never invalidated." And so it's don't compare yourself to anybody else. Everyone's origin story is fabulous. The things that will be different is how much you've trained, how many years experience you have, how intensely and how frequently you use your gifts, and all of those are in your control. You can start training whenever you want. You can acknowledge your gifts whenever you want. It is all, oh, it's all you, babe. It's all you. All you.
I would say for me and my pets and the pets that I've had a majority of my adult life, I don't feel that I confidently could communicate to them. I do it by verbally all the time, but I do feel like I take the time to understand them with visual cues.
Hmm.
So like so a lot of people, they come and go, they have the kissies and huggies, they take care of the potties and the food and that kind of thing. But how many people really take the time to actually watch them, slow things down and see what they do and what they're doing? Something as simple as a tail point,
Hmm.
something as simple as a cocked head or a run and hide or um, so for me, extra observance has taught me a lot because that my animals communicate to me that way. And I don't know if that's learned because of living with me or whatever have you, but they'll actually even point their eyes, they'll nose up things,
Hmm.
they'll stick their tails out. I mean, like, they'll do things specifically in expressions and actions to get me to know what it is that they want.
And a
Then
big
that,
part of that you're not even talking about is acknowledgement. So you're observing, but then you're also acknowledging and being
yeah.
proactive with them.
Mhm.
That's the step that so many pet parents miss. They're like, I'm observing and seeing it. And I'm like, then you every single time you better validate that somehow with a pet, with a kiss, with a treat, with doing exactly what they're showing you that they need, something. Because like you can observe, but like even humans, like if you say, I need to eat, I need to eat, and then when you say it, it's never met, you're going to stop saying it because it's never happened when you've said it.
Mhm.
So
And that
being,
communication is gone.
yes, and they're not going to keep trying. And then it's like, well, that's my pet's fault for not doing more what? More what? I dare you to finish that sentence in front of me. I dare anyone to finish that sentence in front of me. You are the pet owner. It is your responsibility to be observant, to acknowledge, and then act on those. And I know for a fact that you do all three.
And
I
it
know for a
increases,
fact.
yes.
Yes.
And it increases over time.
And then they trust you. They trust you on a level that they wouldn't trust you if they couldn't communicate with you. And that is a huge thing with pets because they can't look at you and go, I trust you. Instead, they point their tail and it's like, oh, you got to poop. which, if they've been constipated, is so important. I remember there was a dog who was constipated for over 24 hours. It was a really big deal. He was super stressed. He had just gone through something traumatic. And so he refused to poop. So let me tell you what, when he gave the sign to do, the entire world stopped.
Stopped. Yeah.
We didn't, there was getting off important phone calls. There was ignoring like mother-in-laws who were being a little bit too overbearing. There was, oh no, the world ended. And we were like, poop, 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 poop. We celebrated it. And then he got back on his regular cycle. But could you imagine how invalidating that would be for a soul to be like, I am suffering. Oh, I finally get to go. And everyone be like, well, we just don't know why he's not going. We just don't care enough to watch. Like, no, watch the animal. They're telling you things. Listen, they're telling you. They want to be your friend.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that I wish that I knew and I had the acknowledgement and confirmation that they're understanding what I'm saying to them.
Mm-hmm.
That would be amazing. But I know they understand words
Mm-hmm.
that are repeated, but I just walk around and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk to them all day long and just expect that nobody else can hear me. It doesn't matter.
It'll sink in. It's fine. I love that. I love that for you. So, the last thing that I want to say, because I know we're coming up on our hour pretty quick, is if you want to learn what your gifts are, if you want to participate in self-discovery and you want to do it in a controlled space with other people so that you can ask questions, there is a retreat called Discover Your Own Awesomeness in August. It's in Denver, Colorado. An entire Victorian mansion has been rented out so that we will all be alone together. And you will learn what gifts you have and how to interpret them. And so there you could learn what gifts you have. And you may have really strong gifts with animals and you don't know unless you go to the retreat. It's not an animal focused retreat. It's a self discovery retreat. And you could learn what gifts you have so that you can grow them to best help your pets if that is an angle of life that you want to focus on.
So, for this retreat, how many people does it accommodate? Like,
So I am a little weird, if y'all couldn't tell. I believe for my retreats that I do, I keep them really small. My events, my conferences can be hundreds of people, but my retreats are always less than 10 people. So you get tons of one-on-one time. You get tons of chances to ask questions. You get tons of chances to bond with the people around you. I want it to be intimate. I want you to feel safe as you explore the things that are going to change your life. I don't want you to feel like you are in a sea of people. I just came back from an amazing trip, but it had 50 people. And there was more than once that I felt just lost. And I was like, there's no way that I could meet everyone here, let alone form a valuable, intimate connection and be lifelong friends. No, the vast majority of them, I was like, I think I recognize your face.
so how many days is the retreat? You said it's in Colorado.
It's in
Um,
Denver, Colorado, and it is 3 days, 2 nights. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It is August 2nd to 4th. And if you get the VIP package, you get a whole bunch of pampering stuff, including a one-on-one session with me, and guaranteed your own room. Otherwise, you might have a shared room. So a lot of people like their privacy. So if you do VIP, you get extra one-on-one time with me, you get a shared room, and you also get to come early to experience more and hang out more with the people who are facilitating the event.
so what are the dates
August 2nd to 4th,
of 2024?
2024.
Do you offer a la carte services? Like, let's say we have listeners that do not hear this prior to this retreat, or you've already made your 10 before this even gets dropped. Like, I'm going to drop this as soon as possible, like tomorrow probably, but are there other things that are coming or other things that you can offer that would provide people to learn their awesomeness or their abilities or discover themselves?
Absolutely. So you can join. I always suggest that people join the monthly membership, and that's where you get one-on-one time with me every month, and you get full moon and new moon tarot readings, and you get journal prompts to help you throughout the month so that you always excuse me, I have the hiccups. I got excited and then I got the hiccups. So you always stay on track throughout the month. And I always tell people that that's the best way to do it. However, if you just want to dip a toe in, you're not ready to commit, that's fine. Then there are one-off services that you can find on my website, lilyofthelight.com. And then you just schedule a one-off session and we talk about and deal with whatever you are dealing with in the present moment.
I love that. Okay, so is there anything else about the retreat that you would like to add? I
Um,
mean, because I asked the questions that I felt were relevant to like myself being interested, but was there anything that,
So the retreat will have 7 different workshops. So
oh,
it's, yep, in the 3 days, we're doing 7 different workshops. There will be a psychic gallery where we will have channeled messages from ascended masters and loved ones and ancestors. There will be indoor and outdoor grounding experiences so that you will always be in the present moment. And my personal favorite, there will be a pajama party one night. Bring pajamas. And yeah, we are going to have a pajama party and there will be some kind of ice cream or s'more or Sunday bar type thing. So yeah, that makes me happy because I love spirituality. I love metaphysical and I detest the myth that it has to be solemn and reverent and a little too Catholic for me. You can have deep healing and still laugh. You can have fun and still do shadow work. It will be balanced, it will be beautiful, and it will be harmonious. So what I tell people about working with me is there will be weirdness, side tangents, and cussing. It is not mandatory for you to participate in those, but it is encouraged that you participate to your own comfort level. Authenticity is required and fun is inevitable. That is what working with me is like. It is weird, it is side tangents, and it is cussing, and it makes me happy. And I hope it'll make you happy too.
I know also that all of your events, all of them are inclusive and diverse as well, which I just want to throw out there too. It doesn't matter if it's a small 10-person private setting or if it's a couple 100-person setting. And I love
Yeah,
that.
I strive for conscious inclusivity. Um, I strive for equity instead of equality because everyone's needs are different. I always tell people that if you need something before an event, you have to let me know before the event so I have the best chance of helping you. But if you show up at the event and you needed a ramp and you didn't tell me you needed a ramp, I might not have brought a ramp type thing.
Or
But
like
no,
food allergies,
yes, food allergies are a huge
handicaps.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh,
Um, Almost everything is kept as hypoallergenic as possible with any space that I use, and any venue that I use knows that it's kept hypoallergenic, which I think is wonderful. It makes me very happy to be able to do that because I have tons of allergies too.
well, that sounds really exciting. Now I'm just hoping that I'm going to be able to swing it.
If
I'll be
not,
looking into that.
if not this one, there will be several more. I have 5 different themes planned. This one is just discover your awesomeness. So this is self-discovery. There will be a self-care one, a meditation one, a psychic development one, an intensive trauma healing one. So yeah, I went I got hyper focused with my ADHD and created 5 different retreats in the span of like a week, and I'm super excited about them. They will be held all over the country, and Florida did make the list, by the way. It's on, there's 9
Yay!
different states that I want to do it in. Florida made the list. So yeah, I want to do it near the Everglades. That would make me
Ooh,
happy.
yes. Ooh.
So there will be more options and hopefully more to come very, very soon. This is just the first one. And then in August, and then the Sound Symposium will consume my life for a few months so that I create a large conference for metaphysical folks. And then there'll be there'll be more rolling out in the future. So please stay tuned. And if you are not following me, Lily of the Light, on social media, follow this podcast. I announce everything here. I will announce everything on Seeking the Light of a Thousand Suns. If you stay tuned to the episodes, you get so much information and so many added bonuses. But if you're ever worried about missing something, if you have already subscribed to this podcast, you are covered. We got you. You can stay here. We love you. We are your people. Come play with us.
I want to say too that Lily has a bunch of awesome social media stuff out there as well on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. Um, so please like, follow, and share. Help our audience find us.
Mm-hmm. Help
And
the like-minded people. We bring up the beacon of weirdness. Just follow it. Just follow the beacon. You will always be entertained.
so we want to thank our listeners again for staying with us. And please like, share, and subscribe. And have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.